I'm completely blank. All I want to do is think of my parents, who are currently watching. When Alexa gets a large, unexpected honor, Sabalenka freaks out. In the realm of women's tennis, something recently broke. Alexandra Eala, a rising underdog, receives an unexpected honor that shocks everyone in the hierarchy. At the top, Aryna Sabalenka expresses her discomfort. Nobody anticipated it, but Sabalenka's silence was louder than any ovation as Eala's name flashed and the cheers resounded. Alexandra Eala was the silent one who passed through the halls of tennis mice before anyone ever heard of her. The girl whose dreams are even bigger than her backpack, which is too large for her shoulders. She didn't say much. She didn't boast. She kept her desire to alter the sport a secret. However, many who saw her hit the ball recognized that she was not a typical talent. She was unique. None of them anticipated that she would one day enter the spotlight so quickly that even elite players, like Aryna Sabalenka, would feel the ground move beneath their feet. Coaches spoke, players watched, and opponents took notes. For Eala, the 2025 season didn't begin with fireworks. It began with hard work, late nights, unrecorded practice sessions, heartbreaking defeats that fans were unaware of, and times when she nearly doubted her suitability for this role. Nevertheless, each time she left the courtroom, she exuded confidence that her breakthrough was imminent. Then, all of a sudden, it did. The upset victories, in which pundits glanced at the scoreline and blinked twice, came first. Then came the tournament runs, which caused spectators to lean forward, watch highlights again, and wonder, who is this girl? However, it wasn't just her skill that set Eala apart. It was the atmosphere she exuded. She made no attempt to be theatrical. She didn't seek attention. And as a result, she was pursued by attention. The stress started at this point. Because there are quiet disruptors in every age of women's tennis, players who appear out of nowhere and unnerve the giants without uttering a word. And that's exactly what Alexandra Eala was turning into. The best players, particularly Sabalenka, who had spent years battling for the top slot and was not prepared to share the stage with someone as unexpected as Eala, started to take notice as she continued to win and as her name rose in rankings and headlines. However, no one could foresee what was going to happen next. Eala's ascent was one thing, but no one anticipated the honor she would shortly earn. Not journalists, not fans, not even herself. And especially not Sabalenka, who insiders said moved from bewildered to shaken to on the verge of panic. However, we must first comprehend the significance of this distinction and why it served as the catalyst for one of the most unexpected conflicts in modern tennis history. Because Eala wasn't merely accepting a prize when she took the stage to accept it. She was entering a political tempest, an unwelcome rivalry, and a glare that could have blinded even the most formidable champion. Sabalenka watched things happen in the background, recognizing that the sports she believed she had control over were abruptly sliding away from her. This was just the start. The day began as usual. Fans seeking seats, athletes warming up, practice courts, and tournament media. However, an odd sensation drifted through the atmosphere. It's the kind of tension that causes everyone to turn their heads without making any noise. The announcement was supposed to happen at noon. No one was able to identify it. The players received an email that said, "A special recognition will be presented today." No category, no name, no clue. People thought it would go to a veteran, a previous champion, or someone who was retiring, but not to a newcomer, a teenager, or someone who wasn't even seeded in the majority of tournaments a year ago. However, the entire tennis world stopped breathing when the ceremony screen flickered and the spotlight moved to a single name. Alexandra Eala has been awarded the International Rising Legacy honor. The camera switched straight to Sabalenka as the room froze with gasps, whispers, shocked expressions, and reporters typing rapidly. Her response was a fleeting, scarcely perceptible micro-expression that conveyed everything. Her arms were crossed, her jaw clenched, and her eyebrows quirked. This was not what she had anticipated. She wasn't ready for this. This was more than just an award, which made her unhappy. This was a declaration that the sport was prepared for a new star, a symbol, and a message. It wasn't one of the typical tennis dynasties. One who was not shaped by the system. One whose ascent was the result of unadulterated perseverance and global pride. A player who posed a danger to Sabalenka's own hierarchy. Eala moved slowly and uncertainly as she ascended the stage. She had a mixture of humility and shock in her eyes. Cheers broke out from the audience. Thunderous, heartfelt applause. "She's so young," commenters muttered. "This is unexpected. Some people's egos will be shaken by this." Eala maintained her composure despite this. The plaque was accepted by her. She expressed gratitude to her family. She acknowledged her team, her nation, and her supporters. But then came the moment that ignited social media. "How does it feel to be recognized at such a young age?" a reporter questioned her. Eala gave a small smile. She inhaled before uttering the words that would go on to become the day's headline. "Perhaps the sport is evolving, which surprised me." Those were powerful words. Transforming into what and who was getting swapped out. Ayala's benign intentions didn't matter. Innocence was not heard by the world. The provocation was heard throughout the world. And Sabalenka heard a warning. Fan accounts began producing side content in a matter of minutes, pictures of Sabalenka's action and Ayala's smile side by side. Threads caught fire. Discussions erupted. Was Sabalenka feeling uneasy? Was Eala being raised too quickly? Did this honor worth it? The scene was prepared. There was genuine anxiety. And what transpired after that made it a full-fledged storm. Social media is the fuel if awards are the ignition. Hashtags started to trend globally as soon as Eala was given the accolade. Videos from the event became viral on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. While some fans rejoiced, others questioned it, and yet others escalated it into a full-fledged fandom conflict. However, the responses to Sabalenka made the most noise. The video of Sabalenka's emotion was slowed down by someone. Dramatic music was added by someone else. Then, captions such as, "Sabalenka is panicking," were added by another account. This was not what she anticipated. Eala simply gave the queen a shake. The story almost wrote itself. Even pundits entered the fray, arguing on whether Sabalenka felt intimidated or just perplexed. Top athletes don't like surprises, especially when new stars get elevated too fast, a former player wrote on Twitter. Thousands of people retweeted that message alone, sparking even more conjecture. Eala, meanwhile, made an effort to remain composed. Grateful, humbled, and inspired, she shared a single message. And even that straightforward assertion provoked disagreements. "She deserves this future superstar," several people said. "This is the past. Let her shine." Some countered, "Honor based on what? She's being pushed too soon. It's not tennis, this is politics." Amidst all of this commotion, there was Eala, a teenage girl who never sought attention, never requested an award, and never anticipated that her ascent would make ripple powerful enough to hit championship players. However, the reality is straightforward. When a new star emerges, the established ones are put under pressure, particularly if the emerging star is adored for more than just her tennis skills. Diversity, youth, optimism, and a departure from conventional tennis norms. The tennis community started taking sides as social media exploded. This prize, according to some commentators, put Eala under needless strain. Some claimed it was symbolic, an indication that the sport was growing, embracing, and changing. And then someone tweeted a screenshot of Sabalenka liking then rapidly unliking a mysterious post that wrote, "Not all honors are earned." It was impossible to corroborate what happened, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Fans screenshot it. Screenshots shared. Narratives emerged. People now think Sabalenka was in a panic rather than just being annoyed. It might not have been true. Perhaps it was overstated. Perhaps it was entirely misconstrued. However, especially in the realm of athletics, perception turns into reality. What had begun as an Eala celebration turned into a discussion about power dynamics, merit, favoritism, and insecurity. This was no longer merely an award. This represented a shift. Additionally, change is never comfortable, particularly for those in positions of authority. Someone always speaks first when the tension reaches a boiling point. It was Sabalenka this time. Reporters surrounded her like sharks at her subsequent press conference, waiting for a quote, a response, anything that could make headlines. Sabalenka entered with her typical assurance, but her eyes showed that she was fully aware of what people had been saying about her. The question that everyone wanted to ask was posed by a reporter to start the meeting. How do you feel about the International Rising Legacy honor going to Alexandra Eala? Sabalenka hesitated. Too long, just long enough to make the quiet seem perilous. Then she made an unsuccessful attempt to conceal the truth with a forced smile. It's unexpected. That surprised me, but congratulations to her. Although it appeared innocuous on paper, her tone, hesitation, and clenched jaw conveyed a different message. Do you think the award was deserved? Asked a second reporter. She didn't smile this time. I believe that awards ought to be commensurate with accomplishments. I will only say that. Those words stung harder than any shouting, harder than any insult, harder than any tweet. Headlines erupted in a matter of minutes. Sabalenka disparages Eala's honor. Eala's recognition is questioned by Sabalenka. Sabalenka, honors should reflect achievements. The story was now officially out of her hands. Fans defending Sabalenka stated she was merely being honest. Fans defending Eala accused Sabalenka of being threatened. Analysts thought this was the first fracture in the armor of tennis's emotional behemoth. Meanwhile, Eala stayed mute, yet silence sometimes speaks louder than words. She didn't clap back. She didn't pick sides. She didn't shoot back in interviews. She just practiced, focused, prepared for her next bout. And that sparked even more conjecture. She's too composed. She's not intimidated. Sabalenka is being allowed to bury herself by her. The tension became apparent. At the practice courts, cams showed Sabalenka smashing balls harder than usual. Frustration drove each swing. Eala, meantime, seemed concentrated, calm, and unmoved. Two players, two entirely distinct energy. One attempting to keep everything under control, one